The war between the land and the sea. Quite an interesting limited series so far. So if you have listened to the other minisodes, is that what we're calling this? Yeah. You would have remembered from Oma Aqua, Barclay, who would have been appointed ambassador by the ambassador Salt. Then in Plastic Apocalypse, we saw where the sea, or the creatures from the sea, they struck first in terms of sending a whole lot of plastic back onto land, I mean, like all the garbage and everything that get dumped into the oceans and the seas and waterways would have been returned to land. So now we're at episode 3, The Deep. So in the ending of Plastic Apocalypse, we saw where Ambassador Salt basically said, you know what? We need to have you come to where we are, to our house, basically, right? And you're going to meet us in the deepest part of the ocean, in some trenches, right? And I guess that's why they really call it The Deep, right? This episode is called that. So going into this episode, I was just hoping for something really interesting. And I think I got it because, at the cost of some lives, because when we see the characters coming in, and we see persons going with Ambassador Barclay to the deep, right? They had to train for a couple of days and then put them in a one submersible, right? And send them down, right? Into the deep. And while them go down, right, tensions are high because obviously you put human beings into any, close quartered environment, people are going to be very tense and very high. Now, Ted, who shall be named Ted posthumously because him end up being the one that we didn't see. And that's why I'm saying this is so interesting, because early in the episode, this man does portray himself to be the most cool guy, and then him start to behave like what you expect when people are fearful of, a sub imploding on them, which it could be true that he wasn't acting in that point, it was really, getting that point across to everybody in there, right? The general and 2 other guys from the unit would have joined as well. So, of course, just like how they accommodated the delegation from the sea as the delegation from on top of the land, they get accommodated, because they are basically in like a chamber that have water suspended over them, right? And Salt, she does something very interesting. She asks Ambassador Barclay to trust her, and take off because they're dressed in suits, almost looking like, water nuts or whatever you want to call it, right? And he takes off his helmet and he's able to breathe air, and it's normal pressure and everything, so everybody knew, but, still was worried, why they bring them all the way down here, Anyways, there's this moment where the 2 of them are alone, Salt and the ambassador, and they exchange something very, very familiar, because from where I watched from the very first episode coming down, I've noticed that they have a special connection and there is something. And even Barclay, he says to Salt that, hey, there is something about you, just me and you and whatever, and she reciprocates, in such a way. And then everybody catch up to them on they proceed to continue with whatever they're doing. Now, the moment that was most stand out for me in this thing came with that bomb, because it was completely not, I could not have read it from him, but I probably expected from the general, because the general was a little bit more, you know, he wasn't aggressive, but at least, you know, he didn't, he seemed more like the type that would probably turn, you know, initially, right? I might not have mentioned it earlier, but that's what I was feeling. But for Ted, no, it was so unexpected. Ted him pretend to carry something that is a gift. When Barclay realized that it was actually a bomb, him box it out time hand, but it was too late. And the explosion probably took out a lot of aqua kind, and that's what they're calling them mostly now, right? And the rest of the team, only Barclay was able to survive with the help of Salt. Salt was able to put a protective shield around them basically and swim them up to the surface of the water. Alright? And even after all of that, you know, you know what I'm saying, we can get the feeling that something else is gonna come, right?